Hey folks, Grower Simon here. Springtime, middle of March, off and on day. This is take two. I just got rained out. I was partially way through making the first video and started just downpouring on me today. That's what kind of day it's been. Anyways, I want to show you what I got going on today. It's going to be talking about compost, worms, and worm bins, all into one topic. I'm doing all three today. So first of all, springtime, everybody wants to start planting stuff as much as possible. I like to make my own soil, so I'm not bringing in expensive soil and compost every year, although it is a labor of love. It takes time. So on my left here, I got a great big composter that I made a few years back. All my yard waste goes in there, some food scraps. I just go down one side, I sift out one side, and then sift out the other side. So, I'm getting about halfway down. These are two of my sifter boxes. The one on the left, 3/16. The one on the right, I don't know. I didn't buy it a specific size. I think they call that stucco backer. I had some lying around, so that was the first one I made. I go big on the compost. And then this is one of my big worm bins that I used through the winter to keep, I got two of them. I used them to keep my worms alive through the winter. I put a small heat mat on the bottom with some cardboard and leaves and a small heat mat on top. And so sifted out a bunch of castings out of there today and took out a whole bunch of worms so I can start some new worm bins. Smaller bins. You can see some of them in behind me there. All along the bottom, those are one of those about 20-gallon Rubbermaids. Some of those ones up top right now, those are full of my Guy Green products. Thanks to Guy Green again, making that cool banner up for me this year and the banner giveaways. So that was awesome. I get to have those in my videos. One of the things I'm going to do today is start some brand new worm bins. I'm going to show you guys how I start my worm bins. I like to use a combination of everything I've got in front of me here. From my big composter, I'll show you some of this. I got this big rolling garbage can somewhere, obtained it free. And down at the bottom there, it's about half full right now. It's compost out of the big composter. And so here, this is my sifter. 3 different sifting size boxes. This is quarter by quarter. Right now, that's some sifted castings, quarter by quarter. Probably not 100% castings. And I've been picking worms out of that as I go. And I'm going to show you what that looks like in a little bit here. So this is the sifter I made. Literally just some 2x4s, some little strips along the bottom for these wheels to run. Very easy to make at home. If you got some woodworking tools, a chop saw, maybe a drill, and know how to use a drill and some screws and stuff like that. So I'm actually going to take this off here. Just wanted to show you guys that. And I'm going to get a couple of worm bins going here. I'll show you all the ingredients I'm going to use. Put that right there. I'll put that away. Not only is this my sifter box, it's my work table. There's tons of stuff here. I got these 2 bins prepared. I built some holes in the bottom already. I'm trying to keep the video short. And I put some around the outside for breathing holes. Some people say put them in the lid. I prefer not to. The reason being, I like to leave these out in the yard sometimes. I mean, ultimately they're going to go in there, so they shouldn't get rained on, but something I started when I first started my first bin, and I started my first bin, I think about 3 years ago. And I didn't have all these worms now. Now I cycle worms from different large grow pots or different things like that I have around here, my old worm bins. But an initial investment, I spent $50 and I bought a pound of worms. I know that's more than a good steak by a long shot. I think they're even more expensive now, so I'm glad I did that, and I've made efforts to multiply them. I have probably several thousand new worms now, like 30-40 pounds if I were to go through all my bins. And I got another big pot over there that I put a whole bunch of worms in to populate through the winter time. So yeah, I'm gonna start. First ingredient, what I like to do on the bottom is layer it with actually some cardboard. What that does is eventually it breaks down, but during the process of breaking down, it helps absorb some of the moisture as you're putting kitchen scraps and food in there. There's a lot of moisture, and you don't want your bins to get too wet. That's why you put a bunch of drain holes on the bottom too. So once that bottom cardboard does get saturated, you make sure all the stuff, all the liquids come out the bottom. When I talk about that liquid that comes out the bottom just for a minute, there's a common fallacy, misconception, that is worm tea or compost tea. That is wrong. That is not compost tea. It's actually what they call leachate. Does it have some good beneficials for your plants? Yes, it does. It has some nutrients. But to all of the research that I've done, turns out that stuff also can very probable could have pathogens in it because it hasn't been processed through the worm bin long enough. And me personally, I don't use it on any plants that I really care about. Meaning I might chuck it on my lawn or under a big tree that can just handle something that goes wrong, but I don't use it as fertilizer for any of the plants that I really care about. So yeah, just thought I'd cover that. This is not compost tea. So yeah, I'm gonna get started here. I have some nice thick chunks of cardboard, too thick to shred. I stick a couple pieces of that on the bottom. Using up some miscellaneous chunks I had. And some handfuls. This is shredded through a paper shredder. I have a 12 sheet shredder. That's what it looks like close up. 12 sheet shredder. Takes, most Amazon boxes and things like that. I don't include any of the tape. I try not to use any. I don't use any glossy cardboard. Glossy cardboard has microplastics in it. So I don't recommend using that. If you want to keep your garden nice and clean of chemicals and microplastics. Just big no-nos. Some people also shred up office paper. I've done that, and there is actually a little bit of remnants in here, but I'm going to be honest, try not to do that because the more research that I've done, turns out a lot of that office paper you use, the ink coming out of the printers has varnishes and microplastics in that as well. So, this day and age, it's hard to avoid microplastics 100%, but I try to do what I can. Finish filling those up. So that's nice, fresh, damp compost. Still got a few worms in there. And I'm going to point out is a lot of people will use some cocoa coir or peat moss to start their worm bins. Not necessarily a terrible idea, but if you're going to do that, I recommend getting some. If you don't have your own compost, maybe buy a bag of sea soil compost or something like that, sea compost, or even some really well-rotted manure. The reason that is like fresh peat moss, cocoa coir, they don't have any broken down biology. The microbes that the worms like, they don't have the right pH. Some of those get a little acidic. The worms go nuts, and they are going to do what they call a mass exodus and try and climb out the top. That happened to me my first year. I quickly correct things. Got some compost in there, learned about it, corrected my errors. And yeah, we'll keep going here. I'm going to put a couple scoops in each. Okay, so there's that. And then I'm going to take this stuff that got sifted out of my worm bins. Put a scoop of that in there. This stuff, again, this stuff still has lots of worms in it too. You know, all kinds of these red wrigglers. If you're not sure what kind of worms to use, there are different kinds that you can use. Red wrigglers, also aka nicknamed composting worms. They get composting worms for a reason. They compost everything really fast. Some people want to do this for fishing and do night crawlers. Big fat juicy worms that they call dew worms. They're kind of expensive in the stores. I'll be honest, I've tried doing that. I've got a bin where I've just grabbed some out of the yard. They haven't done that great for me. Not sure if I'll keep doing it or not yet. I haven't sifted that bin through yet and see how many I've even got in there. So to be determined if I'm going to keep doing that or not. So another ingredient I'm going to add, and these were I used some of the insulation in my big worm bins that I kept out in there through the winter. A bunch of shredded leaves. I'm going to kind of break these up a little bit. Some people like to shred them. They got like one of them compost shredder things, yard waste shredders. I don't have one, so I just do this. It's good enough. It absorbs some of the moisture out of the really wet stuff. You really don't want your bins to be too wet. They get anaerobic. Kind of stinky and kind of gross. So again, a lot of people actually do worm bins in their house. I don't. But I know some people do, and if you do, I really recommend doing it outside for a little while first. Reason being is you might not get it right the first time. It might go a little bit anaerobic, and number one mistake that new people do, I think, is overfeed them, and then they get really stinky and wet, and you don't want that in your house. One of the things I've learned in the few years that I've been doing this, underfeed. Don't give them too much all at once. Put a little bit in there. They love bananas, your household kitchen scraps, some lettuce, some carrot shreddings, fruits. Not too much citrus, too acidic. The odd orange peel is not going to kill them. But don't go and dump a half dozen oranges in there and wonder why they're all fleeing away from it. They might eat it eventually once it's all broken down, but I recommend not too much citrus, limes, lemons, oranges. They love apples, bananas, avocados, pretty much almost everything else you can get out of your kitchen. Eggshells, coffee grinds. So yeah, that list of food can keep going on and on. Something I like to throw in when I get a chance to, if I get a bunch of shrimp or something, I'll even put the peels in here. Get some good calcium, and just anything from the ocean is good for your plants. So next thing I'm gonna do, I want you guys to see this. As I was sifting through my bins this morning, I was collecting, picked out some worms. I filled up this yogurt container. I'd say there's probably about 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds in here. Plus there's a bunch of stuff that's in there that already had a bunch of worms. I recommend, if you're going to do a worm bin, one of like this size. These are the what is it, about 9 gallon I think. I went smaller this time actually. I've got a bunch of those bigger ones that you see over there. They're getting incredibly heavy when they're full and they're wet. And I want to try some smaller ones this year. And I recommend minimum, if you're going to buy some worms, start with a pound. You might get away with a half pound. You're going to find yourself just frustrated. When is anything going to happen? When are they going to start multiplying? When are they going to start eating this food? So at 1,000 in a bin, one of, like either size, maybe this one or that size, it's going to take a while for them to just really dig into that and start multiplying. They got to get used to their new home. Like I said, starting with some home compost, or even if you have to, some bought compost is the best. So yeah, look at this. This is my worm ball. A few still in there. If you're easily grossed out, maybe worm farming's not for you, but I love that. Look at that. I like getting my hands in there. I kind of made it my goal this morning before I was going to do this video that I was going to fill up that yogurt container, so I could show you that. So there's probably, like I said, about 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds. I'm going to split that in two and put those in there. Go under the leaves so they can burrow down into that soil as quickly as possible. Go. Happy worm bins. Happy worms. And in the next couple days, as I start getting some more kitchen scraps out of the house, some fruit peels, some fruits, leftover things, I'm gonna start feeding those bins as I have been with those ones. Yesterday I put some apples in there, some apples that kind of went soft, and some banana peels, some coffee grounds, all those things I mentioned, maybe some lettuce, potato peels, carrot peels, all that stuff. I put a little bit in each one of those bins, and I check it again in a week. So when I started those bins, I probably don't have quite as many worms in there, but as I keep sifting through all my other composts and finish off getting some of these big ones that I had for winter, I'm going to just be tossing more into those bins. And in the next few weeks, I'd like to have that top shelf full of just worm bins, and move those other ones, those ones I have my Guy Green products in, oyster shell flour, all-purpose, bloom, alfalfa meal. I'm gonna get those moved somewhere else. So I just want that to be 100% worm farm, and that way I'll be able to keep up and probably exceed how many worm castings I need. So I think that's about all I got today. Hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed the video. Click like, subscribe. Hoping to make a whole bunch more of these videos for this upcoming grow season and into the future.